Been sober for 16 and a half years. Have never done mushrooms, not even recreational before I got sober. So this is my first experience ever with this plant medicine. The first thing I said when I came out of the... Okay, I'll set the stage of like what it looks like, but to Quentin Tarantino it a little bit and start at the end. The first thing I did was I sat up, took my blindfold off, and said, well, that was a lot of information.
You got the fire hose.
What was that? What do I do with what just happened and what I saw? So to give a little context here, you know, I've been in therapy for 2 years, and the first year and a half was EMDR with Anna, and uncovered a lot of stuff, was able to process a lot of things, was able to take a lot of memories that were traumatic and remove the trauma from them. The way EMDR works, for people that aren't familiar, at least my understanding of it is, if there are memories that are traumatic that you can replay with perfect precision and all the details are still there, it is unprocessed. And once it's processed, EMDR is one of the ways you can do that. The memory becomes blurry. And
to clarify, EMDR is simply holding on to two different buzzers that alternate
while having your eyes closed. And I guess there's a laser version where your eyes follow a laser. I've never done that one. But the idea is that it puts your brain into delta waves, which is where you dream, and it allows you to kind of process stuff while you're conscious. So anyways, we did that, and then we did 6 months of ketamine therapy. I think more like 7 months. So I did 5 ketamine sits.
So you did how much EMDR before your first ketamine?
A year.
So you did a year of EMDR before your first ketamine.
Because I showed up to Anna and I was like, I'm pissed. I'm stuck. I'm angry about it. Nothing has worked. I'm at this place at 38, 37 years old that I was at when I was 23, where it's like, I'm at the jumping off point. I'm not okay. I know I should be okay because my life, I know, is objectively amazing, but I'm not okay.
Which is, I think it's important to clarify that your mental state was what you're describing some of the times.
Some of the times.
It was not, because this was all while we've been building this business, which has been mostly
good,
exciting and fun and enjoyable, but it was regular bouts of what you just described.
Yeah, my Lexapro is not working anymore. It was time to either find a new med or up the dose again to the levels that are like beyond what are normally prescribed. And I was just really angry about it. And I had put out the intention to some friends that I was interested in psychedelic therapy because somehow I had heard that might be an option. And my friend Sarah went to the MAPS conference in Denver, happened to sit next to Anna, and Anna explained what she did. I immediately got a text from Sarah. It was like, holy shit, fucking you need to meet this person. So I immediately booked an appointment and have been working with her since.
Yes.
So I did the 6 months of ketamine therapy as a build-up to doing... Because when I sat down with Anna, I wanted to do everything. I was like, I want to go to the jungle. I want to do Ibogaine for 24 hours. I want to puke my guts out. I want to basically die and be reborn because the way I am, I don't fucking care. And she was smart enough to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's unpack some shit first. If you go do that, you might actually die because you have a lot you need to deal with.
So this would be the preparation phase.
Yeah, it's a prep phase.
Preparation phase lasted 1 year before you ever did any
psychedelic.
Yep.
And so finally, when the EMDR started to cap out in terms of the progress, I developed enough instinct and intuition to be like, okay, like we're stuck. And what stuck meant for me, hopefully other people will hear this and it can resonate for them, is I was on Lexapro to protect me from really dangerous thoughts. The problem was that I was aware that there were levels of distress and sadness that I had in me, but a long time ago I had learned to shut them off, and I had a lot of shame around any sort of vulnerability to the point where I was completely severed from the head to the neck, like up. And so I would sit there in EMDR. I would see these feelings, which is, I know it's like a weird synesthesia thing to try to say, but I would see these feelings come up, and I just knew. I fucking knew that, like, there was no way I was going to access them. I needed to. I knew I needed to. I knew it was a safe place, yet and still, the fucking key had been locked and thrown away. And that's when it was like, okay, we are going to cause an ego death to allow you to get to those things. So even with ketamine, we started at the lowest kind of version, which is a sublingual, where you take it under your tongue. And that would be anywhere from like a 2 to 3 hour experience. And then we built up to intermuscular, where you get the injection. It all happens at once. You get rocketed into a new dimension for a while. You come back and it's, anyways.
And you've said that the noticeable progress for you really began once you started
psychedelic therapy.
EMDR
helped me with a couple things, but comparatively,
I mean, and it really did. And so I guess it's just as it's described, where it's a massive enhancement to therapy, right? So it's like you got good at doing therapy first before you ever used the therapy steroids.
Correct.
Of psychedelics.
Correct. Otherwise, you just give a kid steroids and they start throwing weights around. They don't know what they're doing.
Right.
So I actually wrote, because a lot of this is going to be digested on audio, I wrote this because I think I'm trying to be as clear about what I'm doing here as possible.
Yeah, because it's a lot to unpack, and it's like it's a serious topic, right? That if taken the wrong way it can be bad and dangerous.
Yes, yeah, and so what I wrote is that throughout all of my therapy, I've come to learn that most of my character defects and bad habits are the result of self-medicating an emotional wound that was developed from a combination of medical trauma and neglect as a child. My parents, just to caveat here, my parents did the best they could, but the circumstances that I was in were so gnarly that it was just too traumatic for them to help me process it and move through it in a healthy way. So instead, I turned to whatever I could to self-medicate, and things spiraled from there. As a result of these bad habits, one of the serious cognitive dissonances that developed for me was that I had all these thoughts and feelings, but I lost my voice and my ability to speak up. I know that I'm prickly and guarded around vulnerable feelings, and I struggle to maintain a voice during conflict. Despite years of self-improvement, 12-step work, other talk therapy, I remained stuck or imprisoned in these beliefs. The weird thing was that all through that, I knew that it was possible. I could see that there was a possibility of me getting my voice back and to be healed. I just didn't know what it looked like or how I was going to get there.
So you didn't always, not to interrupt, but
Yeah.
you didn't always have that perspective. You had more of a hopeless, what was the catalyst or moment where you saw that potential light at the end of the tunnel?
That's a really good question.
Maybe the EMDR?
I think it was
gave
during
you a glimpse?
EMDR
Yeah.
because I went to Anna basically hopeless.
Well, you overcame your fear of flying
Yeah, for a while, yeah, I did.
just with EMDR.
Yeah, I remember that. And I was able to have some difficult conversations with an old contractor that had fucked me over. Mm-hmm. They didn't go well because I was terrified, but at least I had them. So I think what I am most proud of is that I have ruthlessly pursued that vision of being free, according to my definition, and have been willing to do whatever it takes to get there. And that's something I see in you, and that's something I see in Anna, and that's something I see in people that I tend to resonate with the most deeply. This integration, just to set the, you go into these things with an intention. And so my intention going into this psilocybin therapy was I wanted to heal my inner child's neglect wound. Mm-hmm. And what I received, because you receive information from this medicine, was I got a more clear definition of what being free for me means. And what that means right now is being able to express all my feelings without fear of judgment and being able to receive other people's feelings and love freely. Mm. So I'm still kind of workshopping how to like simplify that, but it's essentially like I want to be able to love and receive love without fear of judgment.
That's the goal. Just simplified it. That's perfect.
I think that's the goal for me.
Yeah.
And until I'm there, like I don't expect my life to be easy. I'm not looking for some enlightenment stage where I'm like, oh, everything's perfect. What I will continue to ruthlessly pursue until I'm dead is I want to be able to love people freely, and I want to be loved freely without judgment, and I want to be able to do all that.
Yeah.
So.
Judgment, dude. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. I got a lot of shame around emotions and around vulnerability. I don't know where the fuck I got it, but I have it, and it's not helpful, and it prevents me from being as helpful as I could be.
And so, okay, so you did a year of preparation before ketamine therapy, 6 months of ketamine therapy before your first psilocybin session. And so I think it's just important to emphasize that is a massive amount of preparation.
Yeah.
When you're talking about a substance that a lot of people this weekend ate and went to a concert, right? Which is nothing wrong with that. If it's done safe, designated dry, whatever, safe environment, not mixing with other,
but it's
whatever.
Different.
Yeah,
it's not bad. It's different.
It's a completely different substance that when it's done in the proper setting, right? And so now you finally have a firsthand experience with one of the notorious natural psychedelics that just grows straight out of the ground. You can pluck it, dry it out, and experience what you just experienced. So, what do you think?
So, I had to take 5.5 grams.
Which is a very large dose for those that, what is, who's the...
Is it Tim Leary?
One of those guys, the heroic dose is five. I thought it was 5 grams.
5 grams and a blindfold.
5 grams and a blindfold. We can double check that. Something around there. But yeah, 5.5 is a very big dose.
Yeah.
Some may say a heroic dose.
I'm a bit of a hero.
You are my hero.
So yeah, we started with 1.5 grams. Nothing. I'm not getting anything. Take another 1.5 grams. Nothing. Another gram. Nothing. And finally the shaman was like, well, we're fucking here. Here you go. Just gave me the rest until I was at 5.5. And then, and I had my blindfold on and I had sound counseling headphones on. There was a curated music list that was playing. It was 6 hours long. And
what type of music? Big Booty Mix?
There was a part of me that wanted to ask to listen to that for a little bit just to see what it would be like. But the music is like, it's exactly what the haters would imagine it is. It's like sound bath of like, like that kind of shit. Dude, I've seen what they're talking about in the Pink Floyd fucking Grateful Dead posters with the melting shit and the fucking, I saw all of it, dude. And it's like the big eyes staring at. I get it now. I get what they're talking about. I haven't done LSD. But I pretty much did.
It's all the same.
I disappeared. I was not a human for the majority of that session. And it was 6 hours, blindfolded the whole time except to get up to pee, which is also hilarious to do when you're on shrooms.
Quite the journey.
The toilet's like really close and also really far away at the same time.
Did you have, because you were blindfolded most of the time, but then you took your blindfold off, did you have the experience of like, I'm a fucking weird
It did
animal?
not. Did not have that. I just had where like everything was pulsing.
Yeah.
Like the tiles would pulse, the toilet was pulsing, which makes it hard to aim. But the visuals were different than ketamine. Mm-hmm. I've been reading the book DMT, The Spirit Molecule, and in that book, he expressly coaches the patients on. He literally says, ignore the visuals. He says, go past the visuals because there's more information past them. Which, if you haven't done psychedelics yet, is going to sound so fucking whatever. But I did take time to enjoy the visuals because I think there was information in them as well. But the visuals were different. With ketamine, it felt like I was looking at things, whereas with mushrooms, it felt like the visuals were like matrixed into my brain, and I was seeing them, but not with my eyes. I don't know how else to describe that. So, a lot of visuals, and then a lot of moments of just information being shared with me. And this is where I have to figure out like where I stand on this, because we've debated, Mr.
You don't have
Science.
to decide anything.
I don't decide. Good, thank you. I don't have to do anything. Never mind.
But you're caught between this
Were these machinations of like chemical dumps in my brain, or were these information from a higher intelligence being given to me?
It's still the debate of, is this all dirt and rocks and randomness and nothing actually matters, or
Exactly.
is there some sort of intelligent design, some sort of creator, some sort of infinite source of wisdom, light, and love?
Right.
Some might refer to it as.
The old God.
And, that is for everybody to figure out and decide on their own, and whatever works for you, whatever belief system truly works for you. I'd say the only thing to check yourself on is, does my belief system actually work for me? I think
Does it work?
I think that's a good question for everybody to ask.
Is it effective?
Right? And if you have any beliefs that maybe don't work for you, I would recommend spending some time contemplating those beliefs.
Maybe tossing them out.
And maybe even finding a safe, responsible psychedelic experience where you can contemplate those beliefs. Because in my personal experience, it's only led to good things and to better beliefs.
Yeah. So, today's recording's interesting timing because part of a responsible use of psychedelic medicine, I believe, is having a guide that takes you not only through the experience, but also through an integration of the experience. So the next morning, I wake up, and what do you know? Chris thinks that he's going to be completely healed of all of his trauma and is going to walk amongst the people in his linen robe flowing freely.
So are you saying that happened or that did not happen?
Did not occur, sir.
Damn.
But
You're so close.
But what I learned with ketamine and that I forgot that morning was that a lot of the benefits of the ketamine therapy and the perspective it gave me, because that's all it did is give me new perspective, it took a while. It took months and months. In fact, what I would consider my most profound moments of evidence that therapy works occurred only 2 weeks ago after 5 ketamine sessions. So my therapist was able to help me in the integration session to understand, hey, this is one step in many. It's a lifelong journey of progress. There's going to be more if you choose, and you don't have to be totally fixed today. What matters is are you growing? Are you developing? Is it changing?
So if I can give an aside,
please.
A little anecdote, if you will. I've had a recent experience with the last ayahuasca retreat that I attended, where I had the most glorious experience of my entire life. And afterwards, for a couple weeks, I felt like I healed myself. I was like, I'm fucking done. And then slowly, as I get sucked back into the machine of modern day life, it's like the grasp that I had so strongly on these concepts and perspectives, they start to slip. All the way to the point where this past weekend, I was a fucking grouch, and I was a dick, and I started arguments with Kim. And so it's it's never fucking ending. However, the thing that I have that can't be taken away is there's still separation between the negative headspace that I was in over the weekend, prior to these psychedelic experiences, I would exist in that state for extended periods of time. And now I can more quickly recognize and pull myself out of it and apologize and turn my fucking attitude around. But it still happens. And that's like, it's when it's happening, I'm just like, why can't, it's like, I know
40.
I know the perspective that I'm supposed to have. I know that this is somehow my fault, even though my fucking angsty teenage brain that still takes control sometimes is telling me I'm right and I should stand my ground. It's like, I fucking know, but I can't. But the thing is like, yes, they call it a journey, not a destination, right? We are on the journey. And what I can say is I spend significantly less time in those types of headspaces, and I have way more tools and ability to pull myself out of it and to regain the proper perspective. So if that's all that it is until the end of time, like which I think that's what it is. I think it's like, as soon as you solve one of these challenges, it's just like, hey, new challenge. So I think that's all it is forever. And this path of therapy and these therapeutic modalities, particularly the natural psychedelic plants and fungi, they just give you extra cognitive tools and practices that are tools to help you realign yourself, pull yourself out, and to regain the proper perspective. So completely empathize with the disappointment. I think I told you when we were talking about this, like immediately after, or yesterday, that after the very first ayahuasca retreat I went to, I had an experience where, like, at the very end, I was like, I'm more confused than I was going into this, and I didn't solve anything, and I was doing that completely rogue. So I had no proper preparation, proper integration. I had a proper facilitation, but I missed the front end and the back end. So based on the fact that both of us had a very similar psychological experience, I would assume that's probably common, and there's other people out there who have experienced the same thing, or maybe are preparing to have one of these experiences, and they might experience like the disappointment of, oh shit, it didn't solve all my problems like I thought it was. Because it's definitely not a magic pill that fixes everything, right? I don't think that exists.
Ibogaine might. Jury's out on it.
Well, we have.
Let's get him in there.
We have a potential guest
I
that
want to hear about it.
is a veteran who was accepted to an amazing program that is going to send him down to Mexico to experience ibogaine.
And we have another veteran who's already done it.
And we have another veteran who is a very close friend of the podcast, friend of the company.
Yep. We'll leave him anonymous until he's
we're going to have the podcast off mic first, but he would be a super interesting guest. But yeah, I guess that's another. Just to kind of reiterate, like, the plan for this podcast, we want to do guests. We got this empty chair, so that we can have guests who are experienced with therapy, psychedelic therapy, either as a clinician,
as a practitioner, or a receiver, or whatever. Patient.
Yeah, as a practitioner, as a patient, industry people. You know, we want to kind of have a range of guests who can kind of help reiterate all of these things and shed new light and new expertise on different modalities, different therapies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
just an endless topic where it's like, we're just getting started with this thing. And it's fun, and it's easy to record these, easy to edit them and get them up. So we're just going to keep doing it. And it's going to be an awesome education for us to have an excuse to sit down with people like Anna and talk for 2 hours.
Yeah, and like, we get to learn, and then we get to help other people get their perspective.
Yeah.
It's just, dude, it's so fun.
Yeah. It's the best format it's the best content format out there.
Yes.
It's a hard one. You got to earn your audience. We got to get really good at this thing so that people actually want to fucking listen to us and they're not annoyed by us.
Yes.
But I think this one was really good. This is maybe observing in real time. This is maybe the most interesting.
But it was tight. It felt tight.
Interesting and concise duo podcast that we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to edit up Anna's and get it out for the people, and then we can get this one out.
Yeah, or, I mean, we might... Anna's is going to take... because I fucked up the audio, it's going to take a little more editing, so there's a chance that I might cut this one up and get it out.
And we got the intro.
We got the intro
today.
now. Hers is evergreen.
Yep.
But is there any... So...
do you want...
What else should we talk about?
So,
hang on. I gotta pee.
I gotta pee too.
We've got like 20 minutes
Perfect.
until our call.
Yeah. So we'll pause.
Just a quick note: this show is supported by our main company, Chill Country Cannabis. Chill Country is our cannabis brand, and we make really delicious organic edibles from scratch right here in South Austin. They're as good as you can make a cannabis edible, and they are fully legal for now under the 2018 Federal Farm Bill. But you can find full details at chillcountry.com. And we have a special deal for anybody that listens to this show. Use code YNT at checkout, and you can try a 4-count bag of each of the 3 flavors and strains that we make for $20. YNT is the code at checkout, and go to chillcountry.com. You can get full details on the different strains that we make and how we make them and what's in them and all that. Okay, so
I'll just walk people through what it looked like.
Yep.
I think that'd be the most interesting thing I could talk about at least. So I go to a hotel because you don't want to be like interrupted or whatever. But I went to a hotel, got a room there for the night. My shaman showed up with like the music, the headphones, the mushrooms, and I brought a shrine of pictures of me as a child, my parents, my wife, my baby, little shrine there. And so just had comfy clothes on, started taking the mushrooms, and spent the first like 15, 20 minutes just kind of meditating and looking at the pictures and just kind of like dialing in the intention and making sure that I was like, asking for what I needed. And then, as we talked about earlier, had to take more and more. It took about an hour to get to the point where it was like, all right, let's just fucking take the rest of them. And so about an hour and a half after we started is when it started to kick in. And the couple of the most interesting things that occurred visually were I spent a lot of time as different kind of fantastical sea creatures. So I spent a lot of time as like this kind of shrimp thing. And I spent some time as like this other really big fish and just like a lot of ocean kind of themes, which I have told people for a long time that I have this like calling to live closer to water, which is interesting.
Well, you grew up on a tiny island in the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's also interesting.
You've been literally surrounded by the gigantic ocean.
Aquatic creatures. Yeah. And so the way it actually started, the first real thing was I was a cocoon. I was in a cocoon. I was like a pupus in a cocoon, maybe like a tiny baby bee or something. But I was like in this cocoon, and it felt like on the top of like a really cold mountain with snow. And there was this kind of wasp alien kind of thing, and it was making these like click, click, click noises, and it was eating my brain essentially, but not in a scary way. I told Jess that, and she's like, "Oh my God." And I was like, No. It wasn't in a bad way. It was like cleaning my brain is what it felt like. And so at least the way I naturally interpreted it without having to do any sort of like processing in real time was like, oh, like whatever this is like literally cleaning my brain out. Huh. And I spent, it felt like days, weeks, I don't know. It felt like a long time in that zone. Hmm. And then I had a song come on that had a wind chime, And I had a wind chime on St. John growing up on the porch. We have a wind chime at home, and it's got a little spoon on it that says Dad. And so wind chimes have just always been in my life. And if you've ever seen the movie Gladiator, there's a scene where Russell Crowe is like, he's like, all right, I'm fucking done here. I'm ready to go home to my actual home with my wife and kid. I don't need to be alive anymore. And I literally was transported to like that scene, but it was Jess and Birdie. And so I just kept thinking like, I need to go home. I just need to go home. And then I heard this information, which was like, Jess and Birdie are your home. Everything else is complete bullshit.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And I spent some time there and then did some more aquatic stuff, spent some time in like a coffin kind of thing where I had beams of light shooting through me with diamonds and skulls. Spent some time as like a little devil underneath the sheets, just kind of like smurfing around. It felt like months, honestly. And then, it's just a combination of visuals and information. I saw this life where I could be confident about who I was without being a dickhead about it. Because I have come to realize that, like, yes, I have privilege and I have access, but a lot of people do. And still,
well, there are a lot of people who have the resources to access real mental health services, real healing, real therapy, that just don't, likely because of a lack of education.
Lack of education or perspective. And it's like, for whatever reason, I hope that more people would be willing to do what I've been willing to do over the last 2 years to get where I'm trying to go.
You are you've been such an awesome example for me since we work so closely together, and to see your journey with it. I mean, you've seen mine, I've seen yours.
You show me here. But you've been on this path for 5 years, 6 years? With psychedelics?
6 years. It's 2019.
And you've been doing the stuff that's a lot less pleasant than
well, I've just taken a different approach.
Yeah.
But and I discovered it sooner or whatever, but because of how because you're doing everything the exact right way, you're probably accelerating down the path more quickly than I did. You definitely are. Like, my 2019 experience was, had I had the proper preparation and integration, I would have moved through things a lot faster. I've basically only recently started working with someone who can actually help me integrate.
Yeah. Well, brass tacks are, is it fucking working?
Right.
Why are you doing, because I'm investing a lot of time and money into this path. So what the fuck is it doing? Is it working? All I can do, because I have a bad perspective. I think as an entrepreneur too, I don't celebrate wins. I don't look at progress. I only look at the next problem, because that's all there is left to do. And I'm just going to focus on the next problem forever. And I'm never going to sit back and be like, look how far we've come. That is not my fucking DNA.
Well, you also know that the satisfaction of a win is fleeting, and that it's almost like you're skipping the part where you enjoy it. You're just like, all right,
totally.
It's going to go away anyway, so just fuck it.
Exactly.
Move on to the next thing.
Which is totally fear-based bullshit. And what Anna said was like, hey, let's take a second and look at how far you've come in 2 years. I know that's not how you like to operate, but it might be worth it for a second. And so what I can tell you is, EMDR was helpful, but before 6.5 months ago, I was on a heavy dose of Lexapro that wasn't working, having panic attacks, couldn't have difficult conversations with anyone to save my life, couldn't express myself clearly and set boundaries with anyone, didn't even know what I wanted or needed as a person, was in terrible shape, was abusing sugar and caffeine, and, none of that's true today.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's your evidence-based fucking whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
More to be revealed. So we'll see where it goes.
Put that in a peer-reviewed journal. What if you found a peer-reviewed journal right now that said psychedelic therapy is bullshit, and we just proved it through this study? What would you think?
I don't think they would find that.
You don't think that they could come up with a study funded by? You don't think
who?
You don't think there's negative studies, peer-reviewed papers on like the dangers of psychedelics?
Interesting thing.
It's just because it's just a bunch of
People looking for,
which is why it's like all you can do is like an experiment of one, right? But then also we're all the same. We're all the same thing. So if it's working for you, there's a chance that it's something that will work for a whole lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
You and I could not be more different in terms of like,
and it worked for both of us.
Upbringings and the different traumas that we have, and
and yet we both got a lot of benefit from it.
We've both received kind of the same. It's like the same thing I've gotten out of it, you've gotten out of it, and vice versa.
I also saw, we can either leave this in the pod or we can cut it, but I saw what's possible if you take this information and experience and use it for self-aggrandizement and power.
Dude, that's an important one.
Because I saw an entire life where, you remember what Anna said about piercing people with their eyes? I've worked with sick people that have that like weird level of eye contact where it's used in like a manipulative way.
Yep.
I saw a whole world where like I could come back from this experience and be like, no, I know what's going on, and I could get other people.
Yeah. That's what people do.
It's fucked.
Yeah. And now you know how cults start.
And now you know how a cult works.
And it's not just the fucking death cults, right? It's a cult-like marketing strategy to sell bullshit, right? To sell courses, to sell retreats, to sell fucking take this blah blah blah. It's like,
man.
And it's something that like we talk about all the time, right? And threading the needle between like go buy our gummies
and then get a subscription.
And and like so it's but I think the way that we're doing it is we've installed the right checks and balances. Like there's a whole mission in and of itself related to why we're making and selling cannabis products. They're real, they work, right? It's not snake oil. They're real cannabis
and
edibles.
We get on a podcast and talk about how they can be abused.
Right.
We admit that openly.
Exactly. And it can totally just be used as another thing to numb you. And I would say that even in the event that somebody is using something to numb their pain, a natural plant like cannabis is likely going to cause less harm than something like alcohol.
Not a lot of domestic violence cases associated with weed.
No. It's totally, and I think that doing what we're doing, trying to thread that needle, it's like what are your underlying intentions? Like, we're spending our time recording this podcast now. Some of the motivations is this is good top of funnel marketing to introduce ourselves to people and introduce the company to people and get them
build our brand
into the products we're making and whatever, get them into our marketing funnel. So that's like one way that you could look at what we're doing. But I honestly think that if we were just trying to sell as many gummies as we possibly could, there are many other projects that we would both be spending time on to sell as many gummies as we possibly can.
There are more efficient ways to do it that don't involve educating people.
There's also other products that we could make. We could make 50 milligram gummies.
Make 7-hydroxy. You can make all kinds of weird shit.
We can make all sorts of weird shit.
You can sell whippets. You can buy whippets at gas stations.
The same legislative session that is banning hemp-derived cannabinoids is putting age restrictions on whippets.
Weird.
They're not banning whippets. They're putting age restrictions. They're putting reasonable regulations on whippets.
On whippets.
While they're banning hemp-derived cannabinoids.
That's fucking wild. Whippets will literally fry your brain.
I'll go out on a limb and say there is very likely no medicinal use case for whippets. I don't think that you can make the same claim for naturally derived cannabinoids from the hemp plant.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably because whippets make you more inclined to like. If you're a whippet customer, you're probably drinking a lot too.
You're probably buying other stuff.
So,
yeah.
It's not necessarily an alternative. It's a dangerous, dark additive to your alcohol addiction. So they're fine with that. But the alternatives, that's where you got to be. You got to lay down the law, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that takes money out of private prisons and alcohol and big pharma.
Yeah, so I think what we do...
So is that the trade? If the veto doesn't go through, we load up on private prison stock with the company treasury?
Chill country prison system.
Yeah.
And then we get them to sew our shirts for free.
For very cheap. 10 cents an hour.
Yeah, if this bill goes through, then we go to the dark side.
Yeah, we're going dark. This is on you now, Abbott.
Start a death cult. Dude, who easier to convert into the death cult than prisoners?
Nothing to lose.
They can't go anywhere.
Yeah. You have to listen.
Yeah, we just break them until they subscribe
to
our
Vipassana
philosophy.
does prison
That's sick.
sits?
That's amazing.
They teach them. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I mean, what's actually sick is that that isn't like mandated by the state that prisoners have to undergo different therapeutic modalities like meditation.
How cool would it be if they all got ketamine therapy?
God, dude.
Is that time? Is it time to talk to Rod?
It's time for our call.
Time for our call with Rod to find out if we can do stuff.
We're talking to a new attorney who apparently is an expert in hemp laws and
interstate commerce,
interstate
maybe?
commerce, possibly. So we're going to figure out that if this hemp ban goes through, can we just build a kitchen in North Carolina and continue shipping product to e-commerce customers
in Texas? We'll see.
We'll see. Stay tuned.